This is gold? We're on gold?
I gotta go get more ice cubes though.
I need, for those of you who don't know, it is now officially 42C where I'm sitting, so I'm going to go get some liquid to keep me from dying. Kitty. Vaska. But no, it's like I mean, hacking, cracking, and
I almost missed the chair there for a minute. Jesus.
No, hacking, cracking, and other stuff. I mean, they're different things. And they all have a negative connotation, and really, like you're saying, white hat, gray hat, black hat, it's all how you're using it and what you're doing it. It's not even the act you're doing. It's it's one of those things, really, every variable, including whose permission you had, why you were doing it, and what the motivations all determine how gray your intents were. I mean, black hat can be white hat under the right circumstances. And I don't understand that. You know, that was something we joked about actually in high school. Like, we're going in there and we're fixing something that's wrong with the computers in the computer lab by making modifications to the registry. And there was like a joke that somebody would point out. They're like, congratulations, you're now technically a hacker because you had hacked the registry to fix the problem. We're like, oh yeah.
True.
It's like
to me, that's a true definition of a hacker. You know, you're being innovative and finding ways. You're finding ways around the system, not necessarily to have something malicious, but.
Well, but see, that's not what people think of when they think of hacker.
They think of stealing accounts.
No, they don't even think of that. They think of those are the people who are responsible for all these viruses. That's what they think of. They don't think about stealing. They don't think about like finesse hacks where somebody like hacked in and did something, albeit dark and bad, but really innovative and creative. They don't even think about that. They associate hacker equals the asshole who put a virus on my computer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like, so I mean, I don't know what they honestly associate cracker with. Probably.
It says a white dude.
Yeah, I was going to say, dumb white boy.
Yo, cracker, yo.
So technically, we have 3 crackers here.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
We're talking about Willis.
But no, honestly, I would like hacking to go back to being, cute, like it was in the late 70s, early 80s.
Did you just use the word cute? Did he just say cute?
What's wrong with cute?
I don't know. Hacking and cute.
It was initially, back in the early days of hacking in the computer industry, it was not...
It's not a good adjective, man. Oh, no.
Well, come up with a better one then.
Innovative.
Modification.
Dorky.
Dorky?
Okay. Let's think of like let's think of the classic hackers. People like Captain Crunch. Okay, how would you describe these people? They have beards that make me look like I'm civilized.
Okay, so. I don't care, man. Come on.
Well, and really, the thing with most of these people was they were just astonished that they were able to do these things. They were like, why is the system set up this way? What
Absolutely.
Yeah, what genius thought this was a good idea?
Right.
It's like,
Back in the day with Apple IIs, you got all this, you got everything. You could start programming to it. It was all open, back in the day.
Personally, I think that's what made the Apple II such a success. It was like it was.
It doesn't count.
Yeah, it was a machine you could actually just do stuff with, and it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't. Compared to what you used to have to buy to do that, it was ridiculously cheap. It's
Absolutely. I thought it was awesome. That's like the gift of Woz. I would consider that's like Woz's ideology. Now, I'd say maybe Jobs, but Woz has left Apple, and I would say while Woz was at Apple, while Woz was at Apple, we seem to have a lot of openness. And when he left,
no, that's the thing. Woz has really become an inconvenience for Apple as of late because he's a big proponent of open and accessible and just let people do.
Well, because he's a geek.
Yeah, he's like he does.
John is a businessman.
I guess, but that's one of the qualities there. They're like just let them do it. It's their system. Let them do whatever.
No. I love Woz when man. I don't know if anybody remembers SciStar. I did like a couple videos on it. But Woz was like, yeah, I'm thinking about buying a SciStar. What a badass, I was like, that's awesome. This guy, the federal, he's like, yeah, I want to buy a SciStar and see how it runs and stuff like that. I thought that was totally cool. Everybody just went silent. Holy crap.
No, I just made a change on the thing. It's because we're not, I was changing the title. We're not in PCV Macland anymore. It's like we left, well, we are, but we aren't. I don't know.
Yeah, this is like the bit hour or whatever. It's my birthday day.
Sure, we'll call it that. The Bit Power Hour.
Somebody got 21 shots on our 21st birthday, and there we have it.
Yeah,
that's right, man. No,
I'm not sure I'm not sure you want to be disclosing your age to the thing. I mean, you tell people where you live, what your name is, like how much information do you want to give them? Oh, social hackers, go fuck with it. No, don't you dare! Don't you dare!
Yeah, I'm 21, man. That's drinking.
There you go. Answer right, of course you do.
No, actually, it was nice. I had a lot of emails and PMs from a lot of subscribers. Is that a soundboard you're using? I'm hearing like this burnt in the background.
That was probably one of us drinking something.
No, no, dude. This is. It may have been Yahoo because we're doing a new experiment with Yahoo, and that it was better than Skype for the show. But I just heard like this.
It was on your side then, because it wasn't over here.
All right. I thought you were doing because you said you were going to set up a soundboard.
I haven't got it yet. I got to figure out there's a lot of things. For those of you who don't know here, there's like a lot of stuff in the planning stages here. Basically, we need to go spend $50,000, but we don't have it, so we're going to make the best out of what we have and just go for. But we want to be having more fun, and that's going to take some just for fun tools.
That's right.
Because if we ain't having fun, we're not doing our job.
Exactly. It's like y'all think we do this content for you. Purely a byproduct. If you happen to get something useful out of it, it's just better.
That's funny, man. We think we're doing this for you.
I need to get a T-shirt made up like that. I have a physics shirt back there that goes literally the thing on it is physics. Sure, it has some practical applications, but like sex, that's not why we do it.
That's awesome.
We need to come up with that would actually be cool. I should. It's like, you think we're doing this show for you? Ha!
actually a better connection in, huh?
No, they are. Yahoo's always been pretty good. I just don't like some of the stuff they're doing lately. Like, I prefer their classic mail to their new mail, to their all of that stuff.
I don't care about it. I'm just saying that Skype, for some odd reason, was giving us a problem.
and I don't know what it is, because I don't have this problem with most other people. Occasionally I have it with Commodore, but like
it's weird.
it's the same hardware. You know, it's like no tweak, no who knows?
We've tried it on the Mac. We've tried it on the my Windows 7 machine. It's always the same behavior. It's weird.
The issues I have are on my end, and I keep on effing things up, then I reboot and I'm like, okay, I'm good now. Unless I do something to my root partition. Oh, damn. It's what happened last time when I couldn't get it working, I couldn't hear you. Like a day or two ago, I was actually effing around with QEMU, and I actually told QEMU to boot from a physical hard drive. Actually, the hard drive it was running off of.
Oops.
That was fun.
Oopsie.
Yeah, don't do that.
Oh my goodness.
You know, if I thought anybody would get the joke, I would go buy fedoras, and depending on my mood of the day, I'd wear a different color. But I don't think anybody would get the joke. They'd just go, "What are you, ashamed of being bald or something?" Like, they wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
It's like.
She also got a 10-fold one too.
Then I just look like a loon. But I should get a tinfoil fedora. And if anybody asks me about it, I'll tell them it keeps the aliens from spying on me. Because that's what they're thinking anyways, you know, might as well humor them. It's like...
Sure.
God. No, we've come a long way in the last 30 years in general. In some ways, I'm kind of depressed, because we've gone from encouraging just tweaking to now you can be locked away in jail if you do it wrong. You know, that's just sad. It's, you know, I am absolutely convinced that if I was born today, I would be destined to spend the rest of my life in jail. I am absolutely convinced of that. I know that's depressing.
I would disagree with that, because the atmosphere that you actually grew up in lends you to the knowledge you have now, versus if you were raised today, that knowledge would be absent, sadly.
Yeah, I'd be absent of that knowledge. You know, I'm just one of those people who, by nature, you know, of who I am, I kind of go beat to this sort of thing. But that too is not sad. It's sad, because what depresses me about this is I'm like, boy, I'm a lucky SOB, but my kids are just fucked. It's like, if they're anything like me, they're...
For instance, there was a podcast I was listening to, and they were talking about, well, you know, we don't have the access to machines that we used to. And the rebuttal to it was like, well, a 13-year-old just built an iOS application. And that's somehow supposed to make up for having access to a machine, and now, I mean, who gives a crap? Okay, do you know how many packages are out there that say, build an iPhone app and don't know any code?
Well, no, and you know,
I can build a pet rock application and it'll sell. What does that have to do with obtaining knowledge?
Well, no, but see, that is
the computer that gave us where we are.
That's the same thing like JavaScript today. There's two schools of thought when it comes to JavaScript. You should know JavaScript inside and out, which sadly I don't. But you should know it inside and out, so whatever the hell you want to create, you can create. If you want to mix it with HTML and CSS so that it actually is tab browser compatible versus having a menu bar that breaks all tab browsing compatibility and so on and so forth, you should be able to do that. And then there's the other school of thought that there's no need for anybody to write JavaScript anymore, because we have Raphael and jQuery and a couple of other ready turnkey solutions that do stuff.
somebody can know jQuery but not know JavaScript.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to understand the basic syntax of JavaScript to use jQuery, but you don't actually have to be able to write JavaScript at all to use those animations and transitions and pre-writ JavaScript jQuery functions, because they're pre-written functions. You're calling, and really in the computer industry in a whole today, that's what it is. At the end of the day, like you're saying, all of it goes back down to C or C++ or even BASIC. It goes back to the basic computer languages. But the number of people today who even understand, let alone can write any of that stuff, is ever decreasing. It's like they basically know the framework they were taught and the pre-built-in functions, and if they need to do something beyond those pre-built-in functions, they're like, can't be done. Well, sure it can. Write a new function.
Yeah, and I want to add a caveat to that. It is not beneficial for every Tom, Dick, and Harry to be a programmer, because then we have saturation, and then every application gets clouded. See, right now it's like, oh, it's so great that we have 13-year-olds building applications and da-da-da-da, and look how much Apple has 1 million applications. Why is that a good thing? To me, that's not a good thing. I mean, I, as a consumer, have a function that I want performed and tools performed. But I don't want to have to go through a cloud of crap and step through legions of applications to find what I want. I want good. I want
a lot better than 13-year-old programmers of today, because they
Yeah.
actually programmed in BASIC and assembly. They actually did stuff, not just click and run BS.
Yeah, I want good shit. I don't want to have to sit here and go, good God, I gotta scroll through fucking 50 goddamn applications just to get to a freaking credible one, and then half the rating systems are freaking diarrhea in the goddamn iTunes shit, okay? I'm fucking tired of this bullshit.
Well, no, and
right now, application, no, I gotta say this. How many applications you have does not mean fucking dick, okay? Period.
well, no,
Now we've made this rated R.
and see
because
that-
all my cussing. We've made it rated R, but it does not mean dick.
Well, no,
Right?
and what we're dancing around is like the common thing that's not. I know I am not a software programmer. I know that. What's sad is by today's standard, because I understand the syntax of, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus programming languages or scripting languages, I am considered a programmer.
Right.
I know I'm not. Basically, I am dependent on those turnkey ready functions.
If you do understand HTML in a language where there's markup, a script, or
Well, no, and those skills are transferable from thing to thing, but
yeah. But what I'm saying is that, look, it is not a valid rebuttal to say, well, we have a 13-year-old who's submitting an app. Now, if that 13-year-old literally did program in Objective-C and write, or, incredibly build in another language, that application, I'll back off.
well, no, I'm not
If
even.
they're using some fucked up wizard that says, no, you don't have to know any code, and you just run through our shit and you produce an app, I'm sorry.
Well,
that doesn't get shit on me. And I could give a fuck that application exists.
I'm not even as generous as you. This is my definition for somebody who I classify a computer programmer, and this is a rare individual. My definition for somebody who I classify a computer programmer is somebody who can be taught the syntax, and then without being shown how to do something, they can take the syntax and from scratch assemble something that does something, that actually gets work done by the computer. Because the reality is, most programmers today, even people who are writing content management systems and so on and so forth, all they're doing is cobbling together thing A, thing B, and thing C, but all of which they have been shown how to do. It's short of they cannot do anything they have not already been shown how to do. They can't combine half a A, half a B, and create a B dot or whatever. They just can't. And that's what I consider a programmer, the people who have that ability. Because that's a true programmer. Somebody who can, regardless of, like, what do you need it to do? Give me a second.
There's some programmers that are, look, I mean, there are programmers stuck in one language and they'll just look at, for example, Objective-C or C# and go, oh, hell no, I'm not going to do that. You know, a programmer to me is okay, if you actually physically are constructing a language, you don't have a whole lot of wizards doing everything for you, you're going to be a programmer. I'll give them that, because you start from somewhere, okay? And that to me is a foundation that you build upon. But the majority of what I have seen and observed is that a lot of iPhone applications and a lot of Android applications are cookie fucking cutter. And by the way, as a segue, you're going to have to like say that there's cussing in this video. So,
there will be cussing.
No, yeah. Like, YouTube goes, well, is there? What is this content? You know, they go, what is this content? Shit. So anyway.
Anyways.
But this is stuff that I get ticked. This is the bit videos anyway. This is. I'm sorry. To me, you come up. Bring on the freaking arguments, because to me it's absolute rubbish. What are freaking 1 million applications for iPhone?
Great. That means some other fucking dumbass. I think they're a computer genius, you know?
Say that again?
Huh?
Everybody that knows how to use LimeWire thinks that they're a computer genius.
Yeah, but I mean,
I know a lot about computers. Okay, what's BSD? As in vertically software distribution. I was like, what's BSD? I didn't tell them the acronym. This thingy right here that hooks up to your computer? No, that's USB. You don't know jack about computers.
Yeah, to me, it's like...
No. My favorite one is go to those people and ask them where the BLT drive is. And they'll look for it.
There's no BLT drive.
But let me get back to it's just like, if I can't make it clear enough that Apple, I could give a shit that you have freaking 1 million applications, because all that means is I've got to sift through that many more applications to find what I want. That means that I've got to go through some really shitty freaking applications that are very cookie cutter, and everything gets clouded up. No, it's not.
This isn't. See, the thing is, this isn't just an Apple thing. It isn't just it's an industry-wide thing.
It's also an Android. If you get too large, off of this application.
That's what I'm saying. This isn't just a mobile. This isn't Android news. This is industry-wide thing. People have just gotten plain lazy, left and right, when it comes to this stuff.
I want to change this whole freaking model and say applications to a degree is where it's at. But when you go past that line, you are doing more harm than good. Yeah, we need to drop this whole thing about
I have a job that I have a job that I have desperately been trying to fill for going on 5+ years now. I'd like to. Part of it is probably because of what I can afford to pay for the position, but I'd honestly like to find somebody who is one of those genuinely creative types to help with when I do web design. But basically, I'm more a front-end person than a back-end person. I would love to find somebody that rather than having to jerry hack a content management system to do the job I need it to do, I'm going to go, I want this. And
I know.
It's like, because it's when you start jerry-rigging that stuff, I mean, you can do it. And if you understand the stuff and it's like you can do it, but then you're doing so much manual work that if it was just designed to do this, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I love CMS systems, but I think they're overused.
Yes. Oh my God, you're going to open up another can of worms. I mean, I am so tired of Drupal and Joomla.
Yes.
Please move on.
Yes.
Can we please move on? don't care. To me, I hate cookie cutter. Because now everything
looks like the cookie cutter.
Foundation. Well, not only that, our code is based upon that foundation. I mean, I once actually did, but you can add a whole lot of stuff, but nobody takes the time to do it. I'll give you an example. I took a power board and literally just hacked a tremendous amount of things to make it behave. Like, I would actually make every topographical hierarchy lead forum show side by side rather than scrolling. Because I hated all the space it was taking for freaking scrolling. I made a whole new UI for PowerBoard that would put all my top forms when I owned this. I used to own that Middle Eastern website. That it would put them all together, and that was it. And that took a long time to build. But nobody will take the time to do stuff like that. So, yes. I can save hours in production. Great. You know what? You are saving yourself money, and the bottom line is you are making money. But long term, eventually it catches up to us where we build so much on a foundation and we find a freaking error, and then we go, holy shit, now all this crap has to get fucking done because it's inherited through the whole thing.
No, and that's the thing. It's the other thing it's had is it's flooded it's flooded the industry with, like you're saying, grandma can program. Well, the problem is grandma doesn't care about any of the stuff she's supposed to, and then she wonders why it doesn't perform like this other thing, and it's the end result.
I know, exactly. There you go. I'd like this to go faster, and they go back to the programmer. Well, I only know Drupal, and I don't really know the guts of Drupal.
Well, no, and then that's the thing. Like this is like a YouTube cast. I shouldn't say this. I have to be careful how I say this. But I have noticed over about the last 5 years, what people are not willing to pay. It's like you go to people and you say, okay, this is the work that needs to be done, and because they're like, well, like it's like there's this artificial mindset in there of, well, I could be doing this for free, so like I'm already paying more than I should, just do it all. So I'm like, yeah, right. It's like, I don't know how to fix that mindset. The mentality is that nobody needs to know how to program, and everything costs $5. And
I actually make a great living on doing everything custom in erasing templates and
that is
Drupal and everything, because I will tell you, I do stuff for credit unions and hospitals and pretty big business that are just like, wow, did we ever make a mistake going that direction?
No, that's the niche I try and stick to. But since most of my clientele are small businesses, I sometimes I have to, if they want to do it way X, I have to do it way X, and we have to go from there. It's one of the reasons, like I said, I've been trying to fill that job for somebody who can help with the back end stuff. It's like basically we split the thing.
What I do, though, as a programmer is I maintain ownership of my own code many times because I will reuse things, and it's very clearly stated in every agreement that I have, which helps me become more productive, and which programmers are seeking Drupal for. They want to make themselves faster. Well, the way I make my licenses and purchasing my software is that it can be reused. It can't now. If something is totally owned by like a hospital, of course it has to be excluded or something like that. But
right.
Foundation engine principles that I have designed and spent years building or modifying and branches.
That's the thing.
I will then take it and I can offer my clients and say, you know what, my price tag is almost just as competitive as trying to find some turnkey solution. If they want to follow the rules, but I can guarantee I've never run into a customer that says, who want everything turnkey. It's always, can you please customize this and this and this, and they begin to use it, and they want more customization, and to a business, whether they start off frugal or not.
Oh, they all no.
End up
they all
pay you because you save them money in the end.
You know, that's the thing. I can't count the number of times, like with these uber frugal people, like, and this always happens. Like, frugal people wind up usually spending more money. It's really funny. Like, no, it's like they literally are the people who prove the save a penny, spend a pound rule. Because, like, they start off on, like, this little small $1,000 to $10,000 contract, and then before you know it, they've spent $50,000 because they were so frugal. It's like,
that's right. I've run into a lot of that kind of business that they're so fed up, and they're desperate. They need help, and to them it's like, would they rather go back to using paper than what their current system is, and that happens a lot. And a lot of that comes from this cookie cutter mentality. And that's why I love that cookie cutter is kept in check most of the time. Because when it comes down to user function,
well, no, it's like, and we should make it clear, we're not saying like cookie cutter and CMS is bad. It's just, you don't send a chocolate chip cookie in to do the job of an oatmeal cookie. You just don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, you can satisfy a lot of people with a cookie cutter thing. But also, a lot of people don't want a cookie cutter thing because, after all, business is business. People have types of business that they want to have X, Y, and Z performed, and if a cookie cutter solution maybe provides X and Y, but not Z, it's not of use to them. They need something that provides X, Y, and Z.
Well, no, I don't know about you, but personally, I don't charge to sit down for initial consultations with people. I go in, I sit down, they ask questions, I answer them honestly, I tell them everything, and honestly...
Well, you're on a whole different subject.
Well, no. But I was going to say, I'm bringing it up because I'm relating it to this. There are, because you're talking about businesses separate. That's what I was going to get into. The reason I do that is because I want to know from day one, am I dealing with a business that understands they are a business, or am I dealing with a business that's grown out of a hobby where they're still trying to do everything like it's a hobby? And they want to do all of this, well, but this is how I did it as a hobby. Like, you're not a hobby anymore. It's like you're I don't know if you ever come across that.
No, I mean, pretty much, yeah. The clients that I have, and then and usually I have to take numbers. I'm only one guy that does this kind of. I mean, that want to hire me, I only have so much time and so many hours in the day that they're very desperate. That they've rigged up crazy ways of getting around the limitations of the cookie cutter system, and they're like piling up backlogs of maybe one service, whether it's something that needs to be imported or exported, and they're just in tears and ready to go and saying, man, I just need this resolved. And once that solution goes into place, they're so happy. And I will say, look, there are places for cookie cutters, but I am of the mentality that custom is the way to go, and I know that profit people will say no, there's not a whole lot of profit in it, because obviously a turnkey solution gets written once and then it exponentially makes profit thereon after, versus custom software, you make a certain margin every time you do something versus an exponential return. That's fine, but I've always gotten into computers and things to try to. That's how I got into doing. I used to do networks. I used to do hardware, and people had this misconception of, God, my service provider sucks, or this guy doesn't know what he's doing in networking. I've always tried to, because it came from people who were fearful of computers, and that they hated computers so much because they made their lives miserable, but because that was what they had to use, they put up with it. And I wanted to make, my whole thing in my ideology is to make computers friendly to people. And my philosophy of doing that is to make the computer do what they want it to do. The only way really to achieve that 100% is for it to be custom.
Well, no, see, that's the thing. I understand that mentality purely because I'm a freaking perfectionist when it comes to a lot of crap. I mean, the reality is, I honestly wish I had about 500 grand to actually subcontract all the little pieces for a lot of things I need. Because the reality is that that's what some of the shit I want is going to cost, unless I can get people who actually want to work with me or volunteer. And I don't have 500K in the bank. I'm not sure anybody does these days. But
Angel investor.
yeah. Well, where are those angel investors? Damn it! I want more angel investors. But no, I mean it's, and like you're saying, at the end of the day, if you need a custom solution, you need a custom solution, and it's you want to torture yourself, try and make a cookie cutter do a custom job. You know, just that's a way to get really gray. You know, it's.
I mean, Commodore, what do you think about all this? Because, I mean, you've got a lot of experience in the belt, so.
About what?
About what we're talking about, you know, cookie cutter versus custom and user needs.
If I see too many websites that look like the same and trying to do different things, like a lot of the websites, you like the Chris Prolo thing. I see another guy that basically does the same thing. I like him a lot better, but he basically does the live streaming thing, or he used to, but he still uses the Lock and Gnome theme, or the Nasal Pixie theme. Yeah, that's what it's called, the WordPress theme. Same WordPress theme he uses as Chris. So I don't know. It was kind of generic. You know, there's really nothing special about it. Nothing really separate, put it from apart, like from other sites. You know, like the wiki pages. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They all look the same. Yeah. They all look like Wikipedia.
Yeah. You know, it's like, and I'll bring back up Ruby. And I am programming in Ruby, so please, you know, I don't want to have to get flaming and emails on this shit. My complaint about Rails and shit is, again, you know, with the whole, I'm used to being able and being in more control than saying scaffold, you know, body, text, and whatever the fuck I'm going to put in there.
Yeah.
Those damn forms. And then I have to rake it over to the database. I know databases, but I understand that a lot of people don't understand databases. But it's important to understand database architecture.
Is there no way? Because I barely know Ruby. Is there no way in Ruby, like you can with PHP, to have it just output into an actual HTML page that's themed?
All right, what you're asking for is an executable page. Ruby, the language is separate from Rails. Okay.
Okay.
Rails is a server and a framework.
Right.
At the same time.
Oh no, that's what Ruby, I'm thinking. Because
Ruby could be. Actually, it probably could, but it wouldn't.
Well, no, because it's like that's one of the things you can do with ASP, but you can never get it done using something like Microsoft Visual Studio. You have to sit down and write the pages yourself if you want it to work right. It's never gonna.
Active server pages are part of .NET. I mean, it's still ASP.NET. Hence, it's just ASP is now part of the .NET framework. I mean, I know ASP like that's one of the first web languages I ever learned. I mean, I've been doing ASP.NET for years. Ruby probably, God, I don't know for sure because I'm new to Ruby really, but I am, based upon what I know so far, I think you could, it'd be like a CGI thing, if I'm not mistaken, where you could run pure Ruby without Rails. There's a lot of steps you have to go through to get Ruby itself. That's why Rails exists essentially. To just save you that steps. And it's fine. It helps a lot of people. But every tutorial you're going to take, like in a Ruby book or something like that, it's going to say, let's do a microblog. What the fuck is a microblog? It's Twitter. And you're learning how to fucking do Twitter. Ruby, okay, let's do scaffold this, or Rails. You'll program Rails and body XYZ and input. You're establishing all these inputs and shit like that. And then you're gonna say, well, I need like gem this is XHTML and gem. Red something or other, and you bundle it all up, and it creates this wonderful, enormous package that I, as a custom programmer, go, holy crap, this is like more shit than I need, and I'd really like to tone it down and get more specific and not have a scaffold or this and that, which can be done. I'm not going to say it can't be done. It's just, but Rails is designed to make your life quicker and faster and all this stuff. But I can't. Honestly, I don't think that there is like what you're asking for is the actual HTML page to be executable, like an ASP page, a JSP page,
right,
or a PHP page. Quite frankly,
no.
Python though, even in
Django, you have that backwards.
Django, you can you can actually have Python server pages, but you have to have mod Python running on your Apache server.
No,
you can't do that in a shared environment.
No, you have that backwards. What I was referring to is 9 times out of 10 when I'm running PHP, you never go to a .php page on the page if I've designed it. You are only going.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, all right.
Like you're using forms that call PHP that then execute functions that then write an HTML page that is plugged in via a server-side include into the exit page. You're going through things, but you're never actually going to the PHP pages. They're just happen to be running it.
I prefer to have, if the code content of the page has server rendering, I prefer the page to actually open and close a connection and done on that rather than doing a side process to come back and rewrite and render HTML. I'd rather have less interpreters involved. So I usually try, in my years of experience, to have inline server code that's necessary for server to render inline, open and close connection, execution is open and done with upon rendering, and very little. I try to minimize side segues and saying, well, I'm sending this function over here to this PHP to read back and render what I need on the outside, versus saying I have an expectation already. If it definitely needs to be rendered, fine, it'll take the consumption to do so. But if it's not, then I don't even have to go anywhere or send it anywhere else and send it, because it's inline and nothing else happens. And the render, for me at least, in my observation, happens a lot faster.
See, this is something where I get in trouble because like I said, I'm more a web designer and a webmaster. And one of the things that's always in the back of my head is how am I protecting the ability for this to be easy to find by Google and for the URL to stay consistent. And
server side will publish. I mean, if you're really trying, see, I never will have a server render HTML. My HTML exists.
No. I know. I'm not rendering HTML. I'm rendering basically the sections that are going to be plugged into. Basically, the HTML is the skeleton, and I'm having it render the piece that's going to be a variable using like tokens systems and stuff.
It's like, for me, my HTML's there, and it's in cases where it's inline. In that. I mean, there's probably no wrong or right way. I mean, everything is.
Well, no, it just depends what you're doing.
Yeah. But I mean, I will use. See, I use server just for instance on my web publishing of my hospital programs. The server side, like whether it's ASP or PHP or JSP, comes in and fills in tremendous amounts of information for like an object. If an object needs a render wherever on the fly, I use the server already to say, well, I'm creating a standard form for HIPAA, for example. It gets the instructions for rendering appropriately from the server, but the HTML itself is inline in a shell ready. It just needs a bit of information filled in from the server for proper rendering. And I heavily use server and client side in that manner when it comes to web stuff.
No, it's like, and honestly, a good HTML skeleton, I don't want to use the word template, but that's what it is. It's a template for that page. It is what you want, because otherwise you don't have any control over anything. You know, you don't have that kind of level of control in the other languages like you do in the actual.
Well, I will tell you, if you want to get into another language other than PHP, Python, but it won't work on a shared environment. You can't do this on like a $7 a month hosting plan. You're going to have like a virtual private server, or someone who will let you run mod Python so that you can run Python server pages. Because then you'll be able to have inline Python code with HTML.
I think that's one of the. I've been looking into Python a little lately, but I think that's one of the real reasons I never really fully developed Python. Because when you start getting into things where it actually needs to be your box, it's like I know. I wish all my clients understood that's what they needed, but 9 times out of 10. I'm being asked to like run a business on $7 a month hosting, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to work hard this month.
Yeah. See, it depends on how these languages are used, because I see benchmarks like Perl is extremely quick in execution. When I used to write Perl, and we go through CGI, you can actually use Python, like PY files, and do fast, what we call fast CGI out, and there's extreme advantages. And it'll blow away a lot of PHP rendering. It's just that I would say that, look, if you know certain tweaks and techniques, that you can actually use server-side processing in line with HTML and have extremely great performance. It just depends on how you implement it. And
well, it also depends on what.
Quite frankly, Perl is a great language. I think Perl is like the originator of dynamic anything to the web. And like we're up to Perl.
I don't know any Perl. My experience with Perl one time is I was loading some Perl, and there was an error in it, and I was somehow, without any understanding of Perl, able to figure out like where the error was. And I go, this doesn't look right. Maybe it should look like this. And I let it, and it worked. And I'm like, okay, I never want to mess with Perl again. Although I should.
Right.
It's like.
Right.
I found Perl to be
Now, hey, Commodore.
Like, I found it to be useless, so what could you really do with it,
Am I talking over him? I can't hear.
Commodore, can you hear Bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't hear him though very well. Go ahead, Commodore. I didn't want to.
Yeah, that's why I moved my speaker closer to his microphone.
You might want to turn your.
My question to you is that I mean, do you have any Ruby experience at all, or any Rails experience?
Just just Perl. That's about it. I've just been playing around with it. It's so good,
I find so much power in it. I understand that a lot of programmers don't understand.
Just, I get no live feedback. Live feedback is required for me to think in the right direction, you know what I mean?
I talked over you, I'm sorry, repeat what you're saying. I couldn't hear you originally talking.
Well, when learning how to program, but I learned from like the internet and the book and videos and stuff and yada yada and so forth. But, I'm the kind of person that needs live feedback, because when you code, you mess up a lot, don't you?
Oh, hey. My degrees are in economics and political science. I learned computer programming by trial and error over years. I mean,
don't take this the wrong way, but I think that's how those people with those nice shiny doctorate degrees learn it too.
It's just I've had a lot of years behind it. But go ahead, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, I'm that kind of person that requires live feedback. Okay, this is what you're doing wrong. Don't do that anymore. Okay.
Well,
but you know what? There's so many opinions. I mean, I could tell you, I'll argue with database designers.
No, but I work like a syntax error. Okay.
No, what he means is something like where he gets a feedback that says, "Hey, error on line blah blah blah."
Oh,
like
function does blah.
Yeah, like little things. And he's talking about like stupid things, like you didn't put a space on the end of your semicolon.
Debugging. Okay.
Yeah.
Debugging. Okay.
That is, in my opinion, one of the great things about PHP. It's like the moment you run it, if there's an error in it, it goes error on line so and so, column blah blah. And you're like, oh, I know right where to look.
Wait. That's not PHP. That's Apache.
You're right. It's not PHP. It's Apache when you're running PHP that doesn't run right on Apache.
Or Windows, because Windows can run PHP too. No, that like see IIS.
I'm gonna cry foul there, and this is actually gonna go back to the education thing. This is one of the reasons I hate the way PHP is taught by a lot of places, because on PHP you have the long form and the short form, and one of them runs great in IIS, and the other one Apache kind of snips at, and vice versa. If you're really writing the code right, you don't have anything to worry about. But if you're being taught to use the short forms, it's like you better be using the right one. It's like,
yeah, there's techniques that you use in PHP so you don't reveal past if there's an error in somebody. Yeah, but like IIS has friendly error. I believe Apache has something similar.
Yeah, no, but basically you just off the top of my head I don't remember it, but basically you just say don't you just tell it not to report the errors and it just dies silently. But
for me it's like I don't do a whole lot of Apache maintenance. I mean I certainly have set up a tremendous amount of Apache servers in my lifetime, but most of my clients are still Microsoft. I mean Microsoft is everywhere in my line of business, so that's what keeps me. That's what pays my bills, you know what I mean. But I love Apache, and that's why I embrace Ruby and Rails and Python and all these other guys that are trying to make their presence, versus the Microsoft environment and other environments. And I embrace it, but I have my complaints about it as well. It's like, oh, good Lord, I've got this much power here, and I don't want to write this over. Maybe I want to go and come back to this, and I don't want to call this command. And then they're going to come back and say, well, a lot of users don't know this stuff. So lucky you that you know this. And they'd be right in saying that. I guess it's that. But then shouldn't we teach people, in essence, if you're going to use a database, then let's learn databases. Let's learn it. And what you're doing and how to appropriately design a database, rather than using it through Ruby and then raking it over.
Oh, you say that, but most people don't give a shit. They just want to click the button.
Well, there's Ruby tutorials that will show you a design, literally a rational database design, and saying we have an ID here, like. What is that tutorial? Ruby for zombies, or Ruby for zombies, or something like that. And they'll literally show you like a rational database model, and you'll go ahead and build it. You make like the micro blocks and all this other crap. But the thing of it is that I'd like more education. And maybe I guess it's just people just don't want to learn that much or something. It's hard for me to capture because I've lived.
No, but see,
and I took the time to do it, I guess.
That's the thing, Bit. You know how to do it, and it's easy to you. And when you don't know how to do it, you go find the manuals, and you sit down for a weekend or a week or a month, and you read them until you know how to do it.
That's my mentality.
No, I come across the exact same thing at least 20 times a week. I'm like, this is actually real easy if you just do this. I mean, it's simple. The reality is, nobody wants to do it. They just want what everybody wants is, where's the big shiny button and how do I click it?
and let's be clear. If you are out there just to make an application and you don't give a crap and you're there to make a buck, then not being a programmer and making an iOS application, not knowing any code, but it makes you a fortune. Okay, fine. But if we're talking about in principle, which most arguments are, and saying we understand this much languaging and this in theory of programming language, the argument to come up and say a 13-year-old created an application. If I don't know how they created an application, because that to me the semantics of getting there to the result I want to know. Because if they freaking use a cookie cutter process, I'm not interested. because I don't give a fuck. But if they are there, and the argument is that if they're there to make a buck, then great. If the argument is to say that we're all out here to make a buck, then we're going to get into economics, and then great, that's my degree, because then I'm going to fucking tell you, well, now you're going to create a perfect competition, and you're going to eventually saturate your market, and then kill yourself in the end.
Well, no, that's the thing. Like, going back to where this all started with the stupid mobile thing, and you know, to a point with content management systems and so on and so forth, honestly, I don't think there's any more gold to be made. I mean, you can get some, like, trickle, but the gold rush is over, big time. It's just, it doesn't, it's gone. It's...
Well, I mean, no, if you have a great idea and it's innovative, which the theoretical, good feeling idea is to say, well, why make it so easy? Maybe there's going to be that shining beacon and that we have that one developer that makes us a great application. True. But the damn statistics are like, good God. How much of the freaking jello do we have to go through to get to it?
Yeah.
I mean, we do this elasticity forecasting in economics. You know, we have matrices that we go over in economics. That is the same question when you're driving on the highway and you have a concrete barrier protecting you from the opposite lane traffic, and then all of a sudden it ends. That a decision was made, the opportunity cost to build further that concrete barrier to protect you as a citizen has since evaporated. And they can know, and then your life at that point. I swear to you, that's what it is. Posner's risk in economics. I love the, you know, it's like.
It's a little morbid when you do it with actual people, but yeah.
I know, but it's essentially what it comes down to, that the money limit has reached, and what we can provide for you for safety of this concrete barrier up to this mile marker, and that your human life, it essentially says that. We have insufficiently, or we can no longer afford the opportunity cost against you versus your human life to say that if you cross over and now run into oncoming traffic, that's an acceptable loss. That's what it comes from. Because that is exactly the mathematical process we go through.
And for anybody who doesn't,
risk versus reward.
For anybody who doesn't know what Bit's talking about, I can sum it up for you. For those of you who have watched Fight Club, the scene where he's in the airplane talking to the little old lady sitting next to him, explaining what he does for a living about being an insurance assessor for the big auto company.
I have to rewatch that movie. I watched it a long time, but I don't remember the scene you're talking about.
Yeah, she's like, and what auto manufacturer do you work for? I'm one of the big ones.
Hold on a second. I'm just going to go get my favorite. Hold on. Let me get the book. I'm going to show you. It's a priceless book.
He's doing that. Let me see what the bits are at. What are they worth today?
Oh, the bitcoins. Oh, I never heard what Mr. Bit thought of bitcoins.
Oh, we should ask him as soon as he shows us what show us what you're going to show us first. But we have a question.
Economic analysis of law. This is a priceless book that will educate you on what the hell I'm talking about. Okay?
Alright, I'm gonna hear a lot of blah 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 blah, but okay, go on.
Wait, he heard blah blah blah. Okay, I'm gonna show it again. Posner, author, Economic Analysis of Law.
Yep.
Awesome book. God, I'm such a dork. But anyway.
What's wrong with being a dork? I'm a dork. I plan to find a dorkette, settle down, and have a lot of little dorks.
Oh man. So what were y'all gonna ask me? This is gonna ask when I come back.
Oh, well, I think I asked you this once, like a while ago. Bitcoins.
Oh yeah, you want to get economics stuff? All right, fine.
We don't have to. It's just like.
Let's do it, man.
Let's have a whole topic. Here we go.
Well, have you looked at Bitcoin since I brought them up? Way.
I mean, I haven't researched it beyond what you're telling me. What is it? Like some online competitive currency or something?
Yeah, it's basically money at its purest.
Wait, you gotta be freaking extremely careful when you say money at its purest, because every currency is money at its purest.
Well, in this case,
if you mean barter,
yeah, that's what I mean. Somebody created basically bits that there's supposed to supposedly eventually be a fixed number of them.
All right, what backs it? What is
nothing?
It like
nothing. It's worth.
So it's fiat again.
It's worth what people are willing. If people are willing to sell you something for it, that's what it's worth. Whether it's dollars, internet service, license plates, whatever.
Well, I hate to break it to you, is that's how most currencies, in its nascency, except it happens instantaneously and exponentially. When you start saying it's whatever it's worth, well, that's what happens. Instantaneous definitions for what you trade for barter occur, and therefore your value is assessed, and then therefore you become no different from the dollar. Because as soon as you start making, or the pound or whatever, as soon as you start making transactions based upon worth, which other currencies are already doing, weights against. See, I thought this was going to be like a Goldie debate, like the gold reserve people that want to go back to the gold standard, but.
The difference here is it's designed to be a deflationary currency, so it has some of like the gold and silver. That's why I've been.
How are you deflationary? How are you a deflationary? Number one, what makes you deflationary?
There's a fixed amount.
Ultimately there's never going to be more than 21 million of them. There's
Okay, and who substantiates the reserves?
They're actually created, believe it or not, by a bunch of computers solving mathematical formulas, and the algorithm is set that it's over the course of a little over 100 years. 21.
How does it handle population increases? Does it subdivide the weight?
What do you mean? Like if there's more people on the planet?
Well, if you're on a gold standard, it's the same principle. You have a
well, no. Basically, it's a.
But your population increases, and you have to subdivide the weight.
Exactly. And because it's just bits in a computer, it's an infinitely fractional currency.
Okay, but population increases. You have 100,000 population. In other words, I'm saying you have a limitation to the formula and 100,000 population. Does the limitation increase? Do you raise the ceiling, or does the limitation stay the same and the weight gets subdivided now that you're 200,000 in population?
Are you talking about the number of coins or the number of people?
Yeah, you actually, because a coin is a representation, but then that is locked to a bit. But is it a fraction now of a bit versus a bit where it used to be?
No, the bits are fixed.
Well, wait a minute. If they're fixed, that means that you have to subdivide a bit across many coins.
Yes.
Because your population is increased.
Right. That's the thing. It's designed to be an infinitely fractional deflationary currency.
Okay. Deflationary is a wrong concept. If they're trying to say that they want to bring prices reasonably down, let's put it this way, okay? Deflation in today's society is a very harmful effect. The reason being is that essentially what your bit currency is doing is it's saying we have a fixed peg. It's kind of like saying we want to base our currency on gold. We have a fixed peg, right? Well, overnight, if we use gold as a currency,
the U.S. would go broke.
No, it would not. Absolutely not. What would happen is that gold would no longer be traded as a commodity, and gold would then become $44. What is it? $43.43 per ounce immediately, because that's the last time we left it as a peg for currencies. If you don't believe me, look up the U.S.
official
price.
I believe you. I have all the bullion crap here in front of me. It's like
because governments trade gold. Governments trade gold at that price level. Okay. Now, so you've essentially destroyed many people's portfolios.
That's the thing here. There is no central bit authority. It's a PH.
Well, then you have. Well, all right, then you have a competing currency. Then you have a competing currencies. Now, competing currencies led to bank runs. So, like Ron Paul wanted to compete with competing currencies. I love Ron Paul, but being in economics, I question the currency side of things. I am all for Ron Paul and saying, man, look at M3, look at M4. Look at money supply that's not even tracked anymore. He's absolutely correct. I mean, we do enlarge money supply hugely on a whim, which is ridiculous.
Oh, I know.
The reason why we get away with it though is that we don't peg the dollar against gold or a single peg. We peg the dollar against a basket of goods and what it cost us last year. Because it's really irrelevant to base our currency and saying, well, Jesus, if I bring it back to gold, how many dollars would I need to buy a suit? Well, that's really irrelevant if you're saying if everything you're buying and consuming and produced is denominated in U.S. dollars, then basically your moving scale stays the same, and that's why the Fed uses what we call inflationary rates. Okay,
right.
That's what they're basing a basket of goods today versus a basket of goods last year, and how has that rate gone up or has it gone down? If it's gone up, it's called an inflationary rate. If it's gone down, it's a deflationary rate.
Right.
We experienced a slight deflationary rate just recently, which hurt us. Now, the thing of it is that that's how they handle really the weighting system, and all the gold system and competing currency system is trying to do is to make us responsible. Well, I'm sorry to say that we can have a peg, and you can have your bit currency, but I guarantee you, as soon as it comes under some authority, and people and banks and all that, and it comes under stress, they break that standard because they need to re-weight the situation and borrow. And wait. People are going to say, Mr. Bit, that shouldn't happen. But hey, reality happens.
Well, no, that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say, when you like you're talking about borrow, you go to the Federal Reserve and go, I'd like to borrow blah dollars. Print blah dollars.
No.
What are you talking about? People spending money they don't have, or?
Oh, that's different. I'm saying like during Hurricane Ike, the Federal Reserve insured every check every bank transaction that occurred in Louisiana while they didn't have the resources to do so, and it was backed. Okay, now problem is that I'm a Friedman. I love Milton Friedman. Milton Friedman wanted a computer to run the central bank rather than people, and a very smart computer is of course inherently going to be flawed because it's going to be written by people. So, I understand the mechanisms that Friedman wanted, and that's what I shoot for. There is an evil and an inherent good to having a central bank. The problem that most people that want, like Ron Paul, want government completely out of the central bank, and I don't blame them. I'd love the central bank to come up and say, President Bush or President Obama, go shove it. I'm not giving you anything. We're not going to deal with money supply based upon your political policy. Money supply is completely separate from political policy. You do what you need to do in politics, and that's the end of it. It doesn't happen that way. And the board of directors is many times appointed. Well, it is appointed by the president, and it's a sad thing. And a president can really say, "Well, I don't like you. You're fired. I'm going to find a board director or a chairman." Is the correct word. To replace you because this chairman is going to side with my politics and then change policy based upon the U.S. dollar to give me what I want. It's
obvious by some of the things you're saying that you haven't really studied the bitcoins, but there's the utopian idea of the Bitcoin that it's this open source, peer-to-peer, decentralized, infinitely fractional currency.
Yes,
okay.
But what you're missing is that it has to be brought in.
Well, no. I agree with you though. If you let me finish my statement. The practicality though is, regardless of this utopian ideal, it's simply a made-up competing currency.
That's fine. And you know what? And competing currencies, let me tell you, competing currencies in Ron Paul wants which is exactly that, the competing currency.
Right.
Ron Paul wants us to substantiate to a peg that limits us, and so we don't borrow and we don't spend more than we have. The problem with that is that politics get involved, and there's nothing. Ron Paul. I guess you could. I guess you could make it law. Like what I want is that you have a Federal Reserve that tells the government to shut it. But then you wouldn't want. Then you would eliminate the need for competing currency. You would eliminate the need for competing currency.
Well, no, I'm actually a big fan of competing currencies in that if the Fed's being stupid and the dollar's being made worthless, people won't bank in the dollar. They'll bank in something else.
The problem that I have with the dollar is that the people that use it against a peg, like gold, considered worthless, it's obviously not worthless. We are able to live and survive and buy many things that are cheaper under the dollar denomination. What is happening though is that the long-term effects of such money supply increases play havoc in that when it has to be restricted under Keynesian law, which I'm not very much a Keynesian person at all, is that the retraction of a money supply can be extreme. That's why the Fed made the decision really not to make another unchange when it should change using Keynesian principles, and I've studied them all. And it's quite devastating in that, wow, is that so much power in saying, well, what is the result to return and what you are doing to our currency and making people interested in our currency, because we are about buy our reserves and hold U.S. currency as reserves versus us also holding your currency reserves, because we don't have a peg. We don't have gold saying this is our reserves and our wage distribution to dollars amount in society.
Well, you know,
so
you know what the really funny thing is about that, and you know, people who are like obsessed with commodities as a peg and a standard and so on and so forth, based on the fact that we don't have that at all anymore. You know, the whole thing's artificial and in flux. If things really do collapse, like people are afraid are going to happen, I'm not sure whether there is or isn't legitimacy to that at this point. I agree that the value may change, but that doesn't mean a collapse. That means the value has changed.
Yeah.
But if that really does happen, these commodities are actually going to be more insecure than the thing you're running away from in some respects, right. Because how do you trade them then? It's like
the problem with the gold. The problem with the gold is oh god, somebody actually believed that I was 21. This is on Twitter. No, I'm not.
Well, you know, it's like gold, silver, whatever. Let's okay.
No, all right. Gold, as used as a currency, was used because it could be weighted. Gold used to be shipped, and it would travel overseas in ships and all this other crap, and in the reserves, and basically denomination to the weight of what is actually used, if the coin is physically gold or not, was then based upon that such thing. It was an easy way to measure. We have computers now. We don't need that. Because quite honestly, is that the purpose of saying let's go back to gold is to say you cannot spend any more than what you have in the reserves. You can do that with computers as well, and that, I think that's what you're trying to say with Bitcoin. This Bitcoins is trying to say we have a limitation. Fine, you have a limitation. Now the thing of it is that helps the biggest people, but also the smaller people suffer. For example, if we're all on gold, and my wife is from Guatemala, cost of doing services on an inflationary rate scale in Guatemala would be that if they're only tied to their own basket of goods and not to a peg, because let's say the peg inflates, then their cost of doing business is exponentially increased when it shouldn't be. Because if their cost of doing business is far cheaper than actually basing it on a peg, it should remain at the lower interval, saving themselves the price, maintaining at their own basket of goods of what they can purchase and consume and produce. And that's the whole purpose of why we are where we're at. That's what creates more of a competitive advantage rather than hoarding gold like during the Great Depression, which caused...
Well, and honestly...
Gold was incoming coming during the Great Depression to the Federal Reserve, and they refused to liquidate. And that's why Bernanke, which I understand where he's coming from, but like, good God, man, how much liquidation are we going to go through? Because he studied the Great Depression in great detail and wrote his books, and of course his arguments. And I know all the Austrian school, and I love the Austrian school. I am a Milton Friedman guy with a bit of the Austrian side.
Well, no, and like you're saying.
But I will tell you that the reality is that, let's look at it. I'm in the Austrian school. Let's say, why do we need a universal peg? I mean, if you want to have prices across the board, like the Big Mac index, if it's cheaper for a cost of doing business against the inflationary basket of goods versus last year's inflationary basket of goods, to say that Guatemala is going to produce a basket of goods at this price, and it's not tied to a peg, and it saves them, in turn, really no cost of commodity going up. They're able to maintain their own transactions within their own denomination, and therefore there's no artificial inflation based upon a peg because some country has most of the gold versus yourself. But the problem comes in is that when you do that, is that the discipline is far less than it would be under gold. But you can still have discipline under inflationary rate models and basket of goods that we have, that you don't need to go to gold to make it disciplinary. And that's the end goal. And that's the end goal of Ron Paul, is to say, good Lord, he's saying that the central bank is fucked up because we shouldn't have as much money supply as it is. I'll agree with him. But you don't need to go to competing currencies to have discipline. And you don't need to go to a gold standard to have discipline.
No.
You can have discipline in any type of medium that you want. Okay? And the thing of it is that while we were under gold standards, it was abandoned to break that discipline. And we need to really come up with a solution that says, well, what is the maximum way that we can have discipline reasonably?
Well, let's see, that was, in theory, the idea of debt limits and stuff. But the problem is, in our society, we've reached a point where we've figured out we can vote ourselves incentives.
Cool. Well, now you're getting into Aristotle. Okay, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's relevant. It really is relevant. We can vote ourselves entitlements, so we're giving them to ourselves whether we can afford them or not. The problem is, eventually the bill comes due. It's like
absolutely, and I think it's absolutely insane. But I will argue that, look, the U.S. dollar doesn't have to be the king currency of the world. Quite frankly, look, Japan is the second largest economy, and they're now people argue China coming up in GDP, but I like China's books.
I would argue Texas. Don't take this the wrong way. I'd argue Texas is a pretty large economy.
Yeah, of course. But what I'm saying is that, like, I don't know if anybody remembers the contagion effect of, 1997, that really originated from Thailand having 2 sets of books and stuff like that. But you can, look, for instance, the yen is what now? $83, 83 yen per $1. Yet they're the second largest economy in the world versus the U.S. dollar. It's 83 yen versus $1. Now, people get confused in relaying on your currency.
Whether a currency is higher or lower than another currency has nothing whatsoever to do with the size of the economy. It has to do with the supply of the currency versus the GDP versus the actual trading of the currency going on.
Now, it would matter if we based every currency on one single peg. It would certainly matter. But Japan is able to maintain, and we are able to, which I would actually like. I like a weaker dollar. I mean, there has to be a cyclical balance in the yen. Gold would say that, okay, then the gold reserves would shift from one country to another. Not always. History has shown that that's not been the case. The gold didn't change from being in capital to out capital going out. gold, which I digress severely from, when it was actually plated into coins, lived during a lot of years where slavery existed, where you didn't have labor models, in that on a whim, the superficial means of cost changed. The currency didn't have to. Because, for instance, when you're a slave, one day I'm paying you $1, and now, since I'm not doing so, I'm paying you a penny. You can't do that under regulatory law and maintain currency weight. You actually have to pay them something. So what I'm saying is those layers of labor models existed that preserve the currency weight ratio.
Now you're getting into something else, which there's inflation and money supply is not the only thing that's driving the fact that the gallon of milk that used to cost me $2 costs me $4. That's also tied to the minimum wage.
That's right. Inflation is not always tied to price. The true definition of inflation is money supply, which usually affects your price. But because sometimes, and that's why most people are like, why is this still cheap in our society? Why is this still cheap in our society, but this is more expensive? Well, it's because we're not tied to one penny. We are all denominated in U.S. dollars, but other regulatory effects come into play that do affect our prices. Now, inflation right now is screwing with our economy. I mean, we've got a pretty large supply now. Bernac, I love the Federal Reserve. Well, our inflationary scale says we're not too bad, excluding energy and food.
Well, it's not like we need those.
Hello.
It's not. No. Hey.
I don't need to eat. Okay, I'm not going to eat for the next year. You know what I'm saying? But no, food prices aren't always tied to how much the money supply is, and most of the time, our food prices are from some shortages in the commodity, because food is in itself a commodity, like wheat, peanuts, coffee, oranges, apple, bananas.
Well, no, but see, no. Since you brought that up, I feel the need to say it. Don't worry, we're killing both birds with the same stone by turning food into energy.
Are you talking about ethanol?
Among other things.
Yeah, you're getting into the subsidiaries of the U.S. government and saying we're paying you to raise wheat or
oh no, that's
to raise corn. Raise corn for ethanol.
That's not my favorite subsidy. Do you know what my favorite subsidy is? My two favorite subsidies in the U.S. are the cotton subsidy and the CRP subsidy. Those are my two favorite subsidies in the U.S. because it literally means we're spending taxpayer dollars to subsidize a commodity that's on an all-time high, and we're spending taxpayer dollars to tell people, sit on your ass.
And quite honestly, if anybody wants to know a peg that I follow, because that is detrimental to research. See, like gold, if gold goes to $2,000, I could care less. It's great for people who invest in gold. I have gold in my portfolio. Fine.
Well, you know
that's not a measure of how I invest economy. But if oil goes up, that's a fucking problem.
Well, no, that's the other thing. For people who are thinking about getting into like gold or silver and all these commodities and crap, let me give you an example. Just because something's worth that doesn't mean it's worth that. If say gold hits 2,000, like I'll use a silver coin as an example. Like a little piece of silver. Okay, this is worth about $40 right now. That's what it would cost you to buy it, 40 to 45, because gold's spotted melt value. Silver's spotted melt value right now is about $40. You cannot buy $40 worth of goods with an ounce of silver. You can't do it. You're going to pay margins on and other stuff. If you go down to like the local punch store on the corner or whatever, you're going to get $25 for this $40. If you box it up, mail it to a silver dealer, you'll get 35 to the 40, because they're going to charge you a fee, and you're going to have to pay for the shipping. So the reality is, I'm bringing that up because I don't want people going out going, oh, I'm going to get rich buying this shit. Understand that market. It's hard to get ahead in that market.
The people that buy gold at 850,
they're fine. You know, like, and I'm fine. I bought this when it was worth $8. So I'm fine regardless.
Gold was not worth $8. Oh, you're talking about silver.
I'm talking about silver. It's like, but it's like, you know, so I'm doing okay. But it's like, I'm warning people that don't do that unless you know what the hell you're doing. You'll lose your shirt. It's like...
Commodities are a whole different thing, and especially food, and see, energy itself, oil itself, and I know why the Federal Reserve.
Well, and energy is a whole different thing.
Because energy there's so many variables that affect its price versus money supply that's why they say, I know that's why they separate it, but what I don't like is a lackadaisical. Well, it's outside the purview of the Federal Reserve to dictate the prices of oil anyway. So I get it. It's just that... No,
I'm not saying the Federal Reserve can do anything with the price of oil. It's just that the way the price of a barrel of oil is... It's not magically picked out of thin air, but it should disturb people the way we figure out what
Well, the people would argue that the Federal Reserve can then change money supply and make the dollar more valuable and therefore make oil cheaper. True, but oil in itself is an independent commodity that fluctuates on itself.
Yeah.
So if the argument is saying, well, let's have 50% being the better half, in other words, let's have the dollar in the right position, whatever happens to oil is on its own, we just want more value to the dollar. Well, I would say, well, look, in comparison to other basket of goods and other reserves, we've been very powerful in the mid-'80s. I mean, extremely strong. I mean, good Lord, gold was at, what, $230 at one point?
I hold on, I can tell you.
I forget what its lowest point was in the 80s. And one of its lowest points. And that... I hate using those gauges to measure where we're at.
In the 80s, it was between 200 and 300 a couple of times, but like go back to 78, it was 200.
Yeah, I mean there's been a couple things, and the thing of it is that I'm not going to say that we're in correct position with the dollar, but I am saying cyclically that you don't always want to be the kingpin currency. It has negative effects on your economy, and that some comparative advantages that you did have at one point are then destroyed and go someplace else, and that you have to fill that void.
Well, okay,
wait. Politically, because that's what it's going to come down to. Economically, you can't control that, but politically, in changing law or making services to say retraining an industry that's, say, been nothing but educated in steel, and steel manufacturing now needs to be educated in, say, programming computers. Because that's a political element. That cannot happen overnight. So that, you can argue economics all day and say, we need to put discipline in, and we need to have this pay, and this and that.
Well, no,
the government, there's a political element to the economy, and that's why...
I agree with both points. However, the one thing I would point out is that, and I don't necessarily disagree that under the right conditions, a weak dollar is actually better than a strong dollar, and so on and so forth. The problem is, to get from one to the other, you have to go through that transition period.
Sure.
And if we really do go through the transition period from the dollar being strong to the dollar being weak, it's going to be one hell of a transition period for the U.S. At the end of the day, when all the dust settles.
That depends. Yeah.
Yeah, but why you're going through that transition period, people are having problems because of the transition.
Right. Well, let me say this. When you make a move, let's say that we stay and this is Keynesian again, which I'm not a fan of at all, but if you make a move on your money supply and maintain, and Europe decides to change, that automatically changes the reserve ratio and peg to value ratio of euro versus dollar. Even though that could have been I want to say a mistake move, maybe a EU bank, or and something that they maybe reverse later, or the US does that move and they reverse later, but it's so arbitrary in that temporary time that it happens, because numbers get revised so often, and then the central bank makes the decision based upon revisions, and a lot of it goes on. So, since we're based on reserves, many times, for example, the U.S. will weaken. We want a weaker dollar, but then Japan because we are one of the largest consumers to Japan. Japan goes, holy shit! I can't have a strong yen because then nobody will buy Japanese products, and then they will artificially weaken their currency to maintain competitive products. And that's actually happened in Japan.
No, it's also happened with China, and like the amount.
No, China's having problems. China's having an inflationary problem right now.
No, I know, but it's like the sheer amount of manipulation of currencies on a global scale that goes on. And
that's why people get very. They get very suspicious and skeptical about the system, because I think it's easier to comprehend. It's like, well, we have gold and everybody's based on gold, so what the hell? Versus like a reserve, and then, well, shit, China's changing their reserve to be competitive. You're doing something dubious. Really not. Technically, they're doing something good for their economy. If their economy's GDP is majority based on U.S. consumption, they're doing a good thing. You know, it's relative, and I think that people would like something fixed versus relative, I guess, in the way they understand things. But again, every argument that I've ever argued with people who like gold standards, or it all comes down to discipline. They're arguing disciplinary measures.
Well, I have the perfect.
And the thing of it is,
I have the perfect answer to those people. I have the perfect answer to those people. But do you remember why we got off of the gold standard in the first place?
Well, we've gotten off of it 3 times.
The last time. Do you remember why we got off of it the last?
Well, during the Great Depression was when we untied it. Now, Nixon completely unweighted gold from the currency in the 1970s. But actually, when people say World War II saved us from the Great Depression, it was actually when we broke away from the gold standard. That it can be read that we were actually able to start a recovery.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say.
Well, because we changed. The reason being is we changed the liquidation ratio. That is what we did.
Yeah.
Because the Federal Reserve was hoarding all the gold and they did nothing.
Well, no, it wasn't just that.
That was primary. We were on the gold standard.
Well, no. It was that. But the real reason we began getting off was because the dollars outside of the country.
Oh, you're talking about exporting inflation.
Well, no. You're talking about the idea of getting back on a gold standard is we won't spend money we don't have. That's why we got off of the standard. Our money abroad was more gold than we had because of some mismanagement. So we're like,
well, during the Great Depression we had gold income. It's just the Federal Reserve did not turn it into denominated cash.
Right.
Like Bernanke will argue that we didn't have enough liquidation. He'll argue that there was no liquidation during the Great Depression. And so when we broke away from gold temporarily during the Great Depression, we allowed a separate liquidation ratio, which allowed us a recovery. Now people go, well, that's, and they'll rally, and well, look how much debt, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, fine. I would say that there is a debt ratio, but when you get into politics and labor ratio, which economics actually has very little control over, in managing what laws dictate and how fast and how mobile somebody can go from one job to the other, economics just, you've left the realm of economics, and you have to start making policy that affects what happens in economics. Economics is dubbed a dismal science, primarily because we used to have economists in the 1800s that would say, well, we're going to run out of food, everything's static, and therefore we're done. We're going to die. And then that same predictions happened in the 1950s and all this other bullshit. Things are not static. Economics are not static.
Count the apocalypses.
And the end game is to be disciplinary.
I know. You know what? It's honestly, I don't.
Commodore hasn't said a damn thing. We didn't have Commodore.
Well, it's because it's not my area,
Yeah, but you're the one that I think wasn't Commodore the one that says, well,
we were going to be talking about the Bitcoin. You started talking about the U.S. economy and economics.
That's what it comes down to. It's what I asked you. It's like, well, okay, let's adopt the Bitcoin. Well, then, are banks going to start receiving it because
anybody with a computer can pay or receive a Bitcoin. It's P2P. It's a peer-to-peer network. No central.
All right, so this is a point system.
No, it's.
It is. It has nothing to, because when you say like it's going to be a currency, when I take currency as like, okay, you're an adopted currency that I can use through a bank. If this is a point system like Facebook points or some shit like that you have a limited amount of Facebook points, and then each individual peer is reserved against the other, well, that's just a point system. It has no. It's in other words, it's a microcosm on itself. You're not participating within bank reserves and things like that.
Well, no, for that matter, neither is banks. Banks are just participating in trading of the Federal Reserve.
No, but the banks are holding reserve based upon the rules of how much in capital comes and how much out capital goes. That very much so. The central banks of each nation or multiple nations decides the reserve status versus the other to maintain the value.
Yeah.
Like Bitcoin, if it's true peer-to-peer, that means each individual is the reserve against the other.
They're not actually stored. By the transaction records are stored on the individual computer.
No, that's all semantics. The end result of the value is reserve against reserve. That's what maintains the value. I have $10, which means or 10 Bitcoins, which means out of circulation, making others technically more valuable versus the weight. But if more people want to participate, then I lose a fraction because your Bitcoin, because we want more people to participate, is now you fraction. Either that or they subdivide and say, well, you own this much percent. In other words, it will become a percent ratio of what I own of the value of the Bitcoin currency in the end. So I then, in essence, become a reserve on my own.
Exactly.
Value.
Well, in theory, and this is one of the things I find really funny about Bitcoins. In theory, based on the rate at which people are buying and selling Bitcoins right now, and the number of Bitcoins that are known to exist as of midnight today, so a few hours ago, all the Bitcoins in the world are worth about $31 million.
Can I ask you a question? What product can be bought with these Bitcoins?
That's the thing. There's like a few merchants who believe in the Bitcoin, taking Bitcoins for things, but that's, in my opinion, the missing piece on the Bitcoin.
This has to be translated to real bank transactions.
Exactly.
Is Bitcoins not in trans?
Right now,
translate this to purchasing products.
Or
is the Bitcoin argument? See, anybody who's watching who's a Bitcoin opponent, I maybe need more education on how it works, but is it the argument that you want more businesses to participate with Bitcoins and say?
Yeah, no, they want.
But they're going to argue argue and say, well, look, I have a bottom line. I got to pay the light bill.
Well, no. That is the thing. I've talked with a couple of people about this actually. Here are the two things I think are missing with Bitcoins. What the Bitcoin economy consists of at this time is people buying and selling Bitcoins. There are some sites that will allow you to buy goods or services with Bitcoins, but there's very few of them, and they're more. They're more. I believe in the Bitcoin, so I'm going to take Bitcoins.
What are they trading on? What is the transaction based on? I want to give you 3 Bitcoins. Thank you. Have a nice day. What kind of transaction is that?
No. Like there are 2 types of transactions going on with Bitcoins right now. Actually, 3. There's the minting transactions, which are solving the mathematical problems that generate them in the first place. The transaction 2, and admittedly there's a lot more of these, is people going to exchanges where they go, I want to buy blah Bitcoins for blah dollars, and then there's people who have Bitcoins saying, I want to sell them for blah. So, basically...
You're explaining the semantics. Why is that happening, is what I'm asking.
Basically, just like anything, why do people buy and sell
No. People buy and sell stocks because stocks translate to liquidity that buys them a house. Why are people buying and selling Bitcoin?
Because potentially a Bitcoin could be worth over $600,000 if it ever catches on. So they're buying and selling based on the same reason you buy and sell stock. You think it's going to be worth something someday.
How much money did you actually put into the system to buy a Bitcoin? How much actual, whether it's a euro or a dollar, goes into actually acquiring a Bitcoin?
As far as for minting one, the amount of electricity makes it counterproductive, but people are still doing it.
I want to start participating in Bitcoins. I want to get 10 Bitcoins. How do I get 10 Bitcoins?
You can go to one of the exchanges, and to give you an example of what, there's people who are selling Bitcoins right now for an average price for a median price of $6.84 per coin. And the median buy price, which is ranging from as low as $3 and over $7, is so just like gold and silver. It's largely.
So just for some, I guess, philosophical motivation, I would give up $14 to buy 3 Bitcoins.
Give or take.
One day I philosophically believe that Bitcoins will have value. Is that what it is?
That's most of the trade going on. There are a few sites right now where you could All
right, they're buying a commodity. In
right.
essence, is what's it? Okay.
Right.
I mean.
But I agree with you. The primary thing that is missing from this economy, like I said, I'm naming with these exchanges. I'm telling you, I can tell you the price that people that have coins want to sell them at. And I can tell you the price that people that want more coins want to buy them at. That's no guarantee that they're going to agree on a price.
Yeah. Now, economists will come and say, well, dollars are commodities. Yes, they are. Currencies are commodities.
Right.
But what I mean by commodity is that, okay, I'm buying peanuts, and I buy a ton of peanuts. That has a value that I can return and then liquidate upon.
Right.
But it seems like Bitcoins, I guess if I
you can liquidate them in some places, but not very many right now.
If people buy them with real dollars, if people buy them and they believe in the Bitcoins, and then I've made a transaction. I guess it's just like, wow, it's like a fairy tale.
This is what
I don't want to insult it that much. I mean.
Well, no.
Wait. I don't want to be insulting because really buying peanuts is just as imaginary. I mean, you're believing peanuts are going to go up, so you buy peanuts. So you buy peanuts. And you're buying bitcoins because you believe that interest will take hold of bitcoins, and therefore you can sell at a higher rate than what you bought. But if bitcoins is meant to be a currency. Because while a currency is a commodity is not equal to a currency.
Not necessarily. It depends.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the missing piece for this to really be a...
I mean, it is through an indirect process.
Yeah, I know, but...
I'm trying to get at liquidation points.
Well, no, and like I said, there are, like, James has done work for payment in Bitcoin. So there are some geeks who are just doing that. You know, like, give me 50 Bitcoins, I'll do $50 worth of work, you know, whatever. And it's like, there are people who are doing that.
Obviously, if there's a market, let me tell you what, if there isn't a market that actually says that Bitcoins on average are selling for this much price, that means you can't associate a value.
Well, no. See, like, if you would let me say what I've been trying to say for the last 20 minutes, I would make that point.
All right, sorry.
It's like, as I've been trying to say over and over and over and over again, and as Bit is alluding to, the missing piece for this to be a viable economy is, like you say, merchants have to pay the bills. I'm a merchant. I am selling goods. You pay me in Bitcoins, I can immediately turn around and have a guaranteed price. I can go somewhere and I go to them and I say, how much are you going to give me in dollars or euros or something per the Bitcoin? No haggle, no price. There's enough establishment in gold and silver that while you may not get melt, you know you can turn around and do that. With the Bitcoin, that is not yet established. There's no guarantee it ever will be. So the market is incredibly volatile right now for this commodity. It's bouncing back and forth between 25 cents a coin and $12 a coin.
Yeah, because that's exactly when you go to liquidation to pay that light bill, and that's the whole process where it has to translate to. See, I thought Bitcoins, I guess, was when I briefly looked at it, I thought it was trying to be a competing currency against the dollar or something.
That is what it wants to be, but but like we've said, you know, at the end of the day, there needs to be more trade.
If it wants to be that, then
there needs to be more trade going on, and for that trade to go on, if I have to pay my light bill in dollars, I better know
Bitcoins could be the best commodity in the world. If it wants to compete with the dollar, gold does not compete with the dollar, I'm sorry to say. It's a commodity that you can sell and make ETFs on, or buy bullion, or whatever. And it's separate from a currency. The second it becomes a currency, those values drop. If you want to really become a currency, then you need to go through the banks. Versus a transaction of taking your commodity, whether it's gold, Bitcoins, or peanuts, into liquidation to pay that light bill.
You have hit on an interesting point that I hadn't actually realized till you just made it. But this goes back to, like I'm saying, this is free trade at its most pure. Essentially, I think we've just summed up what the Bitcoin is. The Bitcoin is an attempt at establishing a completely made up commodity to be traded in lieu of currency.
Sure.
Which is what currency is.
Which is what commerce and trade is at its most pure, but it's usually not done that way. It's
yeah, because currency. What is currency? It's a middle barter system. But the problem is that we live in standards that say that this is the denominating barter. In other words, you have to translate in the end argument, you have to translate your commodity into the medium barter that is a universal barter for acquiring and selling goods. And therefore, like if you buy gold, what do you have to do for gold? You can't go to the grocery store with gold. You can try to melt it down and make gold.
I have a feeling if I had 5 ounces of gold, I could probably go to a used car lot and buy a car.
Yes, if they were to do that, but I mean, come on. I mean, as a universal acceptance within, I mean, and the bank will take your gold coin too and give you the medium barter system for it. See,
actually,
all of this stems from wait.
Go ahead.
All of this stems from distrust in the medium barter system. All of this stuff about gold standard or discipline has to do with distrust in the accepted universal medium barter standard used for buying and producing goods. And that's the thing. If it comes down to discipline, then let's attack the discipline.
Well,
trying to make a parallel system than doing that.
Don't take this the wrong way, but that is proof of a paradox right there. Because the only reason the accepted medium, the dollar, has any value is because we all have blind faith that it does. Yet the only reason we have this whole conflict is because we don't have blind faith that the dollar has value.
It's not blind faith. Fiat is not blind faith. Fiat, I wish that fiat merely means that we don't have a universal peg. We do have a universal system. In other words, holding reserves against reserves. That's how Bitcoins works. If it's peer-to-peer, your reserves of each user makes its value. That's exactly how bank systems are working now. It's just they've decided to use a standard of what is now in flux versus their own currencies. They use their own currencies because they're able to control their own inflationary prices of goods versus their last year prices of goods, and therefore maintain competitive advantages, what is helpful to their own microcosm of an economy versus a universal peg. The thing of it is that all this distress does come from saying, I don't want to accept that standard, because maybe they don't understand it, or they hate the discipline behind it. If you don't understand it, shame on you. Find a way to understand it. If you are attacking the discipline behind it, then I would agree with you. But that doesn't mean we have to change the way we are handling currency today. We simply need to get involved. Either
I agree with you. It's just I'm also taking into this the human nature aspect, which is,
that's why Milton Friedman wanted a computer to run the central banks. He wanted the human element. His thing was to try to get the human element out of it, which is virtually impossible.
Yeah, the human element is what makes it work in the first place.
I guarantee you. Let's put U.S. on the gold standard here, and then all the Austrian school would be happy. Fine.
No.
Wait.
Please,
then one day
please don't.
We have a catastrophe, and then millions of people start bitching as the way the economy is working. Then someone gets elected, and then all of a sudden, because they get elected, the politics get involved, because labor issues come involved, because the economics is far more than just worrying about currency. We have to worry about many more models, and then someone else gets elected, and we break that discipline, because that is beneficial for that time period as a temporary measure. And it gets us out of that rut by borrowing while we're going into debt. Well, debt is a good thing. When you buy a house, is a house a bad thing? Is a house that you go into debt, buy a house. You go into debt, buy a car. It provides a service. So the end result and finite result, again, comes back to discipline. Well, if that temporary measure was just to help us get out of that rut, then in essence, if we were arguing the final point, it would be accepted. Okay? Because we expect not to continually do it, and that's what the slippery slope arguments come in. Well, once you started, then we're just going to fucking borrow for everything else, which is true. I mean, it's like this. It is a paradox in itself. Look, there is many contradictions because politics in itself changes the rules. We can make mathematical principles that hold, but they don't hold when we change the rules, and therefore we make new mathematical principles based on the new paradigm shift of the political policy. But no economist can come and argue with me and say, we're going to make a finite, this is it, we're sticking to it, and that everybody's going to stick to universally forever and ever. It's not going to happen because it's never happened in the past. We have broken from every disciplinary measure, commodity peg, what have you, in the past to save ourselves politically because borrowing was the way to get out of it, temporary, but then it led us to a slippery slope of borrowing, and led us to a miserable state that we are in now.
Oh, wait. I was told I could spend my way out of debt. You mean I can't?
You can't pay for your credit cards, can you?
Sure I can.
Oh, you can, yeah. But you get my idea. I mean, and this is the thing, is that economics is a very dismal science. I mean, it's, in part, the problem with a huge portion of economics deals with politics. That's why I have a degree in politics and a degree in economics. And Bitcoin is a great idea. Okay, fine, it's a commodity, and you do that. But the thing of it is that are you going to argue and come, Mr. Pitt, if everybody would just accept this as a let's kill the Federal Reserve, and bam, we're going to make this competing. Well, damn. All right, you make a competing currency, and then guess what? The Bitcoin is going to go up against Bank of America's private banking system of their own currency, and Wells Fargo, and I guarantee you, then what happens if you want to move yourself from a commodity to absolute liquidation currency, then that means the fastest medium to liquidate will win with the average value behind it. In other words, if I can translate everything I have to the fastest way of a medium and acceptable means of saying I want to pay for this product with this currency, and it's accepted without the least hassle, will occur. However, if the value of that currency is perceived to go down, there will be a bank run on that currency, and it will immediately collapse and something else. And then the other currency will become temporarily inflationary by the rapid absorption to weight ratio of that currency. And then you automatically default to having a central bank yet again, because the bank run, it's ideal to say, because saying you have competing currencies is a theory based upon a perfect competition. Well, in a perfect competition, no profit exists. See, because a perfect competition incorporates opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is the political side of economics. Therefore, we can't really have a theoretical perfect competition within competing currencies, and therefore, if there is a misconception in saying this currency is doing extremely well, even if they're on a perfectly stable competing currency, they're going to move over to the stronger currency. And by default of the human reaction, which happens politically, you've already created a central bank standard. Everybody just went to Bank of America based upon perception, and it could be a temporal influx, and therefore you just created a standard, and that's the end of the game. You've destroyed your competing currency system, unless you create regulatory instances in saying so many people can run from this bank, and the rest of you must stay. Well, then that would be unfair to the consumers, wouldn't it? So the thing of it is that it's like what the stock market does in saying nobody else can trade anymore. We've dropped 300 points, we've lost this much percent, trading is stopped. Well, if you really want to maintain a competition truly, a true competition, you'd have to have regulatory measures to say this many people can make a bank run, and this many people have to stay and maintain their currency in that bank.
Well, no, and it's supposedly the fix for that. Like I said, I agree with you. There could be a run. That was their logic, or so they claim, for designing it to be a deflationary currency, and that they're encouraging people to want to trade in bitcoins rather than want to transition.
They're currency. They're at a commodity level.
I know, which I agree with you. It's just. But at the end of the day, there's no reason you can't trade in commodities, because, like you said, at the end of the day, the dollar is just another commodity.
Yeah, but then you end up in Russia, where I'm going to trade you 15 bottle caps for one potato.
Well, I don't care. They're bits in a computer. How many do you want?
Yeah. Russia actually literally did that. Their currency collapsed so badly, and one time they were on a direct barter system for a while.
I got news to you. I'm not sure we're so far away from going back to a direct barter system.
No, I know. I'm saying, but I'm trying to tell you that's what it will result in if people are going to argue that system. You know what? If people are still watching at this level, bravo. I mean,
I know.
You're a person really interested in this.
Even I stopped watching it.
I bet nobody watched it to this point.
We should
give them. You know what? Hey, we should give them a prize for watching this far.
I don't have anything to give them. I would love to just give stuff away.
It's a virtual high five.
Why not like a $10? Why not like a $10 gift card or something? I'll freaking contribute to that.
Okay, but that would be $10 times upwards of 170 people.
No, that's true. You think 170 people are going to stay this long? I don't know. All right.
Mr. Bit will give each and every one of you that stayed this long. No, he's not willing.
Hey, the first person who, all right, we can make something. The first comment of this video that will stipulate a sentence that you can create. So it's only $10 gets it.
So the first person to say something like, so we're going to come up with a secret phrase, and the first person to like post it in the comments gets.
I'm not in the comments, damn it.
Just $10 or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm just curious is all.
Oh no! I did this with the Linux episode a while back. Like I had everybody say, those of you who bothered to watch the whole thing, like type this below. But I didn't promise.
That is unfair.
I didn't.
That is unfair, though.
I didn't.
It is unfair because schedules.
I didn't promise them $10 though, because A, I don't have it, and B, like you say, it's not fair because of schedules. I mean, it's basically, if you're going to promise people $10, you're going to have enough to cover for everybody. And I'm sorry, I don't have $1,700 to give out.
Yeah, because I follow other, I'm just going off other users that in YouTube, they always do the okay, I'm picking a comment. Well, wait, that's what they do. I forgot about that. They do pick, if they do comment, then they put them in a randomizer program, and then the one picked out of the randomizer program gets the $10 or whatever, if they comment. In other words, you do the work of everybody who comments, you put them into it's an input randomizer application, and then the application will spit out what result, and they get the $10.
Sounds like something to build into the website if we ever get the website built.
Right. But if anybody is seriously watching, I'd love them for them to comment.
You know what?
Because then bravo on them.
If those of you who watched this far, are we fixing to stop or are we going to go on more? No, you know what? Whether we go on or not, those of you who watched this far, in the comments, I want you to put live. I want you to say welcome to Dinotopia. Something entirely random.
Oh Lord! No, I mean, you know what? Because I'll say this: because we are building a channel, a station, what have you, an internet.
Honestly,
whatever.
I bet you 20 or so people watch.
Right here, in that perhaps if you do listen to us and you stay on this long, there's going to be surprises. I'll say that. We'll do like a random drawing and shit like that. There's going to be, if you watch this freaking long, we're going to reward you. So some way or another.
Ben's not sure what the reward will be yet, but he's promising something.
Yeah, I am. I'm being a politician right now.
He is not a crook.
No, we can do. We can do something. I mean, shit.
Well, this is, honestly, this is why I'd like to get a budget together for hardware review of items, because then when we get in the situation where we want to give something away, we just go, okay, what are we done reviewing? Okay, you get one of these lovely things, because we've already bought and paid for it.
If we don't review something, we could give away gift cards. If you're an Apple user. What we can do is like.
Well, no. Here's
we don't have products. We can do money and a gift card.
Well, here's the reason I haven't been doing reviews. I don't know if you were watching back when I made the mistake of doing a giveaway.
I didn't see that video.
Back. Yeah, a year ago. A year ago, Christmas, or maybe it was 2 years ago. I don't remember. I'm like, you know what? Let's have a pointless fun contest. And I was like, okay, I want a parody. Like a parody song. Like 12 Pains of Christmas, or something just sick and demented and techie, and it was a contest. Have fun with it. Have your kids sing it, whatever. And in exchange, whoever makes the best one gets this. Only one person made it, and it was such a basically they won by default because they were the only entry. But it was such an awful entry. It was just So I'm like,
Well,
but no.
But see, our objective is to say if you stayed on this long, you should be removed. I mean, we are going through content that like would put most people to sleep.
Oh, I know.
and I want to in some way reward those people because in my book that's earned something.
You know what? I am actually all for that if we can figure out a way to like put Easter eggs in the content for people and just. We have to come up with ground rules for the Easter eggs because I don't want to like be pitting everybody against each other.
Now, are we still recording while you're saying this shit or what?
Yeah, we're still recording, but I can just stop where we.
No, I mean, I wouldn't give away everything you want to do in your plans. I'm saying you're recording. I mean, Commodore, do you have another topic you wanted to go into? Because this is, Jesus. I'm not going to go on economics all night. How about Steve Jobs a dictator or some shit like that? Is Commodore even there?
He's here. He's just thinking.
Yeah, I just can't hear him that well.
Oh.
Right now,
Translate for
Well,
see, that's how. Yeah. All right. So that way we can. Or we'll blame the host for that. Do you have a topic?
No, I do not.
Welcome to Slow Motion Theater 4000.
I don't know, we can talk about some weird stuff, I don't know.
Oh, no.
What weird stuff?
Well, we'd already covered religion and politics, and I'm not sure we should go into that.
All right. Shh. What movie does this come from?
Oh no.
All right, here we go.
Thank you, I have headphones on.
Hold on. Here we go.
And I haven't maxed out, do I? Yes, I do. Yes, I haven't a maxed volume. I'm wearing big ass canned headphones. Thank you.
This way. This is going to be a hard one.
As you're fulfilling your duty to Rome, my duty is also to my men. They can get them home.
What the heck is this?
What is that? Okay, you heard that? Did you hear that about Rome and all that? Did anybody know what that is?
Sounds familiar, but no.
That's King Arthur. Okay, let me get
Wait. Sean Connery one?
No, it's King Arthur, yeah. Hold on, where's my favorite one?
I prefer Excalibur.
Yeah, Excalibur's pretty good. Hold on. Let's see if y'all get this one. I'm trying to find that damn part. Oh, there.
Did it stop recording?
What?
Don't get over it with that live one! It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. Stay calm. We're gonna take you out. It's gonna be alright. Give me a hand. You gotta get around here.
What's going on?
Carlson!
What the heck is that?
What is it?
I'm not. Although
Come on.
If we're gonna do this, we probably need to set better audio up.
Huh?
If we're gonna do this, we probably need to figure out a way to set better audio up.
Oh, you can't hear it that well?
Yeah,
No, it just sounds like garbage.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
Thanks for trying.
I can, but Commodore cannot hear it, and it's like, and I'm hearing static because of where the volume is. So, but we'll figure out a way to get that done right. And
aliens.
I never actually watched that movie.
Oh, come on, you got to see Sigourney Weaver.
You never seen aliens? Oh my god.
Yeah, he's a kid.
VHS tapes. I just didn't have them at home. Sorry.
Jesus.
I love this.
That is my good.
Watch
my buddy face down the mud, so that this fucking stuff, this fucking horse, can walk from us Vietnam, man. Well, there's literal contrast to your face, and there isn't any connection. Oh, have it your way. But my point is, well, you're ready to be fucked up. I see you roll your way into the semi. Dios mío, man. We're gonna fuck you up.
Dude, the Big Lebowski is the
He loves the freaking Big Lebowski. He will play the Big Lebowski all son. I think I've watched parts of that movie. Never actually seen the whole thing.
You do.
You guys had some inside joke that I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
He doesn't know what the Big Lebowski is either.
Oh my god! However, give me some movies. What do you know?
I know of quite a few movies, like early 90s, maybe late 80s if you're lucky. And yeah, those are the far backs I can remember. Unless it's like a classic, like this kind of goes nuts on me for saying this, but I never watched Blade Runner.
Alright.
You have.
Let's do it. Where is it?
It's my.
So we should stop the show to stop recording.
What's this one? Everybody knows this shit. Let's sing it. Yeah, I gotta get to the good part.
What the heck was that?
He's over me. This shit.
I'm fine for having fun, but I'm gonna stop the recording. A, so we don't lose it, and B, so since this isn't gonna work
Dude,
right.
this is Empire Strikes Back with Yoda, man. I'm trying to get to a good.
Wait.
See y'all later.
Lando.
You can't hear anything?
Lando's not a system, he's a man. Lando Calrissian.
Did you hear that?
Cart.
You better know what that movie is.
I can kind of hear it, but I don't know what they're saying.
You know, you won't get it right. Let's just say it involves Lando Calrissian and leave it at that.
This live cam audio sucks, man. I don't know. We just need to fuck.
Okay.
I can do this all through. I can do it all through my mixer though, and actually set this up so it does input.
That's one of the problems I want to address. But you know, I'm gonna stop the
But it
recording.
still has to go through your computers. Yeah.
No, I have an idea on how to address that, but it's a other thing. For now, I'm gonna stop the recording and we'll go from there.
Alright, so what was your secret phrase you have to write down? Dynamic. What is it called again?
Oh, I think I said welcome to Dinotopia. Oh, but we should create another one for people who watch this far. Those of you who watch this far to find out if you watch the rest of our bullshit, Dinotastic. Y'all should write Dinotastic. No, we should be entirely different because people might write Dinotastic. How about my mind is slipping?
Empire Strikes Back. I want them to write down Empire Strikes Back.
Write down Empire Strikes Back. That works. Those of you who got Dinotopia, great. But those of you who got to this point, Empire Strikes Back. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Peace out, all.
We keep on saying it.